welcome back. We are now into the last week of August. Seems like this month has absolutely flown by. I'm just out here in a canola field. This one is going to be straight cut, but as you can see, it's still a little bit on the green side, so let's take a closer look. This canola field is actually DKC22, so this is a DeKalb hybrid that has the stacked trait properties in it, so it's both Liberty Link and Roundup tolerant. So it is starting to sunburn. You can see some visual sunburn on a lot of these pods. That's why they're, partially green, partially purple. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is color change inside of it. Some of these are still on the green side inside. You can see this one has some mottled color. But basically we just got to keep an eye on it here. It's still, we're probably coming up to the time to do some desiccation in here, but we're not quite there yet. Some of the dryland fields like this one are getting very close to harvest timing here. This one probably just needs another few days of hot weather. There is still the odd green plant you can see here and there, but for the most part it's drying down pretty well. Well, we've been getting a lot of questions about whether guys should be doing any post-harvest weed control or not. So right now I'm standing in a patch of kochia and Russian thistle in some barley stubble. So this barley stubble has been off now for, I want to say, close to 2 weeks. So you can see after that rain we had last week, we actually do have some volunteers starting to emerge. So now would be a decent time to come in and get this stuff under control, as well as this kochia and Russian thistle. Now this field in particular, as well as many others in the area I know, are group 2, 4, and 9 resistant kochia. So what should you be using as weed control for post-harvest? Well, Black Hawk is kind of an easy answer, especially if you do not have your rotation 100% figured out yet. You don't really know what you're going to be going into next year. At this time of the year, Black Hawk, as well as many of the other products like even DB878, are going to be perfectly safe even if you're planning on putting this into, say, canola for next year. Now, the other takeaway from this is that if you're spraying at this time, you're not going to be controlling any of the winter annuals. They just really have not germinated yet. We require a little bit cooler temperatures in the fall. So you're going to control what's up here right now, but don't necessarily expect to have a clean field in the spring either. Basically what we'd be trying to do by spraying now would be to control seed set on things like this Russian thistle and this kochia. The other thing that lots of guys have had luck with in the last few weeks has been with Liberty. If you have resistant kochia like this, then you can come in with Liberty at a 1.67 liter per acre rate. Use 15 to 20 gallons of water and go slow. You want to get excellent coverage. You want to cover these nice green weeds all the way down to the bottom if you can. The more, the better, because that works only by contact, but it does work quickly, and it is working very well so far. This canola field has been harvested in the last few days, and as you can see, even though as mature as the tops were, the bottoms of the stems are still quite green, and we are actually already starting to see some signs of regrowth, although the flea beetles are kind of trimming it as it is coming. So we're going to have to keep an eye on a lot of fields like this. We are supposed to receive more moisture this week, I believe either today or tomorrow. So we'll see, if we start getting some regrowth, then next week will be the time to do it after it's had a chance to get growing after the moisture. This field has an interesting story this year. This was one of my earliest seeded canola fields, and it got off to an excellent start because it got seeded into great moisture pretty early in the season. It came up really evenly, came up really nice, and looked absolutely spectacular right up until the time it flowered, and that was when things started to go wrong. Because this field was seeded so early, it started to flower before any others in the area, which means that it got heavy insect problems, as well as it didn't get any rain until it was well into flowering. So after flowering, it went downhill pretty fast. It burned up pretty rapidly in that heat and ended up producing only 7 bushels to the acre. So sometimes being the first one in the field can hurt you. Now in comparison to that last field, this is the same variety on the same farm 2 miles farther south. So this field was planted about 7 to 10 days later. I'll check the exact seeding records to see how close I am on that. But anyways, this one actually did get rain before it started to flower because it was a little bit later. And being 2 miles farther south, it actually got a higher quantity of rain. So whereas the previous field yielded about 7 bushels, this one so far is coming off at 30. So quite a difference. Well, the corn by Nobleford is looking really good this week. We're developing here pretty quickly. You can just start to see we got the shadow of some dent effect starting to occur in these kernels. So we're going to be hitting the dent stage here pretty quick. Definitely, you know, we're kind of getting out of that milk stage now. Here, I'll grab a kernel. We have very minimal milk in some of these kernels now. We're really starting to build up the solids in here. So definitely, you know, still a few weeks away, but we're getting closer and closer to silage timing. Well, we had a pretty good storm roll through the area last night, dropped about 3/4 of an inch of rain in about 20 minutes flat with a pretty impressive show of lightning and thunder. There was rumors of some hail along the 520, but if there was, I think it was farther to the west than my fields. I'm out here about a mile south of it right now, and my canola here looks pretty good. There is the odd pod here and there that has shelled right at the very top, but it's pretty few and far between. 99.9% of them are still doing pretty good. This is DKC22, which is a True Flex and Liberty Link tolerant canola, and it is held up very good. Checking out this cornfield by Picture Butte, and things are coming along pretty well in here. We're not at dent stage yet, but we're getting pretty close. You can see I cut open a couple of these kernels here, and you can kind of see the starch line. But we are still pretty milky, so we still have a little ways to go in this. But, you know, at this point, we're probably only 2 to 3 weeks away from silage timing. All right, well, that'll be it for this week. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.